So picture this. Two salespeople walk into the exact same meeting for the same company, same services, same pricing, for the same opportunity. Now, the first salesperson walks in focused on one thing, closing the deal. Have to always be closing, he believes. He talks really fast and pitches early and often. He gives quite the elongated bio. He asks few questions and explains every single feature to the prospect. And at the end, the prospect nods politely and says, "This sounds good. Let me think about it." And the deal quietly disappears. Now, the second salesperson walks into that same meeting with a completely different objective. She's not thinking about always be closing. Her goal is to come in and understand. She asks much better questions. She listens more intently. She is looking to simply uncover the real problem and connect with the prospect and identify what is truly at stake. By the end of this conversation, the prospect says something very powerful. He says, "This feels exactly like what we need. Same company, same service, same pricing, for the same opportunity. But they came away with a very different result." And that is some truth around sales, because many people think sales is mostly about being smooth and being a persuasive talker, and it's far from that. Great sales are about clarity. It's about trust and helping people make confident decisions. In addition, you want to adhere to being your authentic self. Do not send in your representative into that meeting. Do not send the person you think you need to be into that sale. Always send yourself into that sale. You have to believe you will always be good enough. So today on the Business Moves Blueprint, we will break down and overview the sales process, and more importantly, what your mindset should be at every stage. In addition, what your prospect may be thinking as well. So during this episode, we will overview the strategy and psychology of winning sales. I'm Rasheed Haneef. Let's go. Now, whenever people open a sales meeting with a brand new prospect, or they prepare to give that very public speech, there is usually one thing that may be consistent. They're going to be nervous. Malcolm Gladwell has written that people subconsciously make up their minds about you within seconds of meeting you. Now, here's the problem with that. If their initial subconscious reaction is a negative one, it can be difficult to overcome in that one particular meeting. You see, once the brain forms that first negative impression, it starts looking for evidence to justify it. It doesn't look for reasons to change that perception. So at the same exact moment, you need to be at your best. Nervousness can cause you to be at your worst. And a lack of preparation can compound that even further. So let's start at the beginning. At the opening of a meeting with a new prospect, your job is very simple. You need to create comfort with your prospect, and this will lower their resistance. You will want to build credibility very quickly, and while displaying confidence in your role. You will always want to lead with curiosity, though, because the result of a strong opening helps you control the tone and direction of your meeting. Having a weak opening creates doubt in the prospect's mind, and it's that doubt that will have your prospect wondering, can I really work with this person? And you really need that answer to be yes. They need to feel they can trust and believe you are there to help them succeed and to win. The tools you carry in when you walk in are effective communications, both verbal and nonverbal. So when you open with strong communication, it reduces their psychological defenses. Now, weak communication, on the other hand, and especially when it feels scripted or focused on just yourself, can trigger internal resistance with prospects. It may feel like a pitch to them, and you can believe that most people resist being pitched to. Once the resistance starts to build, even good solutions will struggle to land most times. Mastering early communications in your meetings is about looking to control 3 aspects of that meeting. Number 1 is perception, or how they are viewed by the prospect. Number 2 is emotion, or how they feel about the process that you're managing. And number 3 is direction, where you are working to guide the conversation. Now, you may not win the sale in the opening, but you can absolutely lose it there. If it is the opening phase that earns some trust with the prospect, it's definitely the discovery phase that earns your opportunity with them. And I firmly believe discovery is the most important stage of the entire process. This is where you stop being considered just a vendor to them and you start becoming a consultant. And hopefully, even better yet, a trusted advisor. So discovery should feel like a continuation of the great conversation you hopefully started in your opening. Always remember, your number 1 job in discovery is in diagnosis. Your mindset should not be focused on which solution fits best. Your attention should fully be on understanding what your prospect is dealing with at this moment. When customers describe in surveys what they dislike most about salespeople, most of those complaints come from this stage of the process. What they do not like are salespeople who talk more than they listen. What they do not like or enjoy are answering questions that feel scripted or superficial. And they have a hard time trusting people who jump to solution way too quickly. They also dislike conversations that are mostly self-centered, like it's all about me. Their largest issue, though, is simple. They do not feel understood at times. And where does the salesperson gain that perspective? Well, it's in discovery. So just what should be happening during this phase of discovery? For one, you should be very curious and ask open-ended questions all the time. You also need to pay attention and listen for areas of struggle to aid in identifying what their emotional drivers are. And you will need to look for an opening to create urgency for your prospect. And in addition, it's important to clarify their budget, priorities, and any other obstacles that may be in their way. It's all of these items that work to shape their decision-making process, and you want to make it as easy as possible for them. Always remember, the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your discovery. So come in prepared. Now, I know we stated this earlier, but people buy emotionally and justify that impulse logically. And this is why understanding their emotional drivers matters so much, because every customer silently asks themselves during meetings, why now? Why not just stay where we are and what we're doing? Is this the right time to make that change? And unless you fully understand their overarching situation, you will never be able to answer those questions for them. Therefore, you will not be able to move them forward in any process. Before we move on to presenting the solution, this is a critical lesson for all in sales to understand. You can truly only successfully sell up to the level that you believe in the solutions you offer. If you do not believe your solution and your service can solve people's problems, neither will they. There's an old adage or saying that goes, those who believe they can and those who believe they can't are both correct. If you do not believe in your solutions, your present role may not be for you, but that's okay. Find a new one that you can believe in, because you can never reach your full potential without having conviction. Okay, we're good here. Now let's talk about presentation. To deliver the right solution, you must have a firm grasp of what the real problem is. If you did not ask the right questions, you may only understand their surface issue. But like an iceberg, most of it may be below the surface. This is where their real issue may lie. For example, a business may complain and say, we really need more leads to survive. And that's a pretty constant issue. That sounds like a problem. But is it the problem? Maybe their issue is poor follow-up. Maybe it is with weak online presence, or possibly the issue is a low conversion rate. Or they may have the wrong target market. The point is, unless you understand why leads are missing from their business, you cannot pull the trigger on the right solution. When you are presenting your solution, always focus on their problem before you focus on any solution. Focus on their goals and their outcomes, and not on detailing all the features of any product. Tie everything back to goals and what they are looking to achieve, and address any concerns that pop up before they fester and turn into real objections. And look to create a sense of urgency to help them with their decision-making process. In this phase of the process, your prospective client is always wondering a few things. It's always about trust and the feeling if they can trust in you. They question if this is going to work for them and if it is worth their time and investment. Your job, again, is to answer all those questions, to provide them with confidence. So don't just present tons of details from your solution. Present them with a vision of what their future may look like. Which brings us to the close. So closing is not about being convincing. They shouldn't have to be convinced of anything at this point, if you followed your process. It is about creating confidence, because when their confidence is high, closing will always feel natural. If there are any issues at the close, it is usually because something broke down earlier in the process. The possible issues for breakdown could be a few things. Could be with qualifying the prospect for the service, or with identifying what the real problem was. Possibly you failed to create urgency, which left the prospect feeling pretty content, or you missed what their emotional driver and desired outcome was. There should never be a need to trick anyone at the close. You simply need to ask for the business. Be a pro. Don't hesitate. Don't show uncertainty. Be confident. If your process has been strong, you should kind of know where they stand at this point. And if any concerns do arise, hey, it's normal. Most objections come from one of four places. There's an uncertainty from the prospect. There's the fear of making the wrong decision, or a lack of urgency. Or there could be a lack of trust, which is the worst one to have, by the way. Now, they may phrase it differently, but it usually comes back to one of those four. Objections are not rejection. They are simply requests for more clarity. So treat it as such. Don't panic. Clarify and lead them to the desired result. There are two things we found about process. If you master the process, the close becomes pretty predictable and positive most times. But when you skip steps in the process, the close can become unpredictable and extremely painful for you. The key to using any process is first having discipline to it. I cannot tell you how many times we have worked with people that show us their process, and they show it on paper or their computer, and when we ask to discuss it, they're not able to do so. They barely know it, which simply means they're not using it. You have to first know it cold, and second, repeat it and repeat it and then repeat it again. Because every time you go through it, you will get better and gain more confidence with it. Repetition will always be the mother of learning. Thank you for listening to the Business Moves Blueprint. I'm Rasheed Haneef. Please like and subscribe below. We look forward to catching you on our very next episode featuring a brand new business move. And by the way, my granddaughter Naya told me not to forget to wish everyone peace.